Chapter 51:21. He killed more than 250 of the Forbidden Land's 8 clans' origin sources, plundering their treasures, obtaining immortal crystals and origin-level divine medicines. It couldn't be said to be a small amount, extremely shocking. It was enough for ordinary origin sources to use for a long time. However, he had only used 10 years, and he had only gone from mid-reciprocity to the peak of mid-reciprocity. He hadn't even advanced a single level. It could only be said that the resources he consumed for cultivation were too terrifying. The higher the grade of the origin root, the more terrifying the resources consumed for cultivation. Lu Ming's origin root was a high-grade origin root. The resources he consumed were at least 100 times more than those of low-grade origin roots. This was also because his conversion rate had reached 80%. Otherwise, even if he consumed all the immortal crystals and source-grade divine herbs, he wouldn't be able to reach peak mid-origin. Looks like I have to go out and search for resources. Otherwise, my cultivation speed will be even slower if I cultivate step by step. Lu Ming muttered. It wasn't impossible for origin realm existences to advance without immortal crystals and source-grade divine herbs. For example, through the universe bridge, one's consciousness could enter the universe ocean and comprehend the origin in the universe ocean. Most people at the peak of the Almighty Master stage did this. However, cultivating like this was too slow. It required a very long time to accumulate. At the same time, origin realm existences could directly refine the origin spirit medicinal liquid to increase their cultivation. The origin spirit medicinal liquid could be directly absorbed without wasting a single drop. However, the origin spirit medicinal liquid was too rare. A peak source-grade divine herb could only be refined into a single drop per month. It wasn't enough for Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming, you've come out of seclusion. I have something I need your help with. Not long after Lu Ming came out of seclusion, he encountered a few old men. Lu Ming knew them. They were all origin realm existences in the Ashen Azure divine realm. Lu Ming had a good impression of these people. Back when the Tsangqing divine realm was besieged by the 8 clans of the Forbidden Land, some of them advocated for Lu Ming to be handed over, while some of them were adamant about not letting him go. These few elders were among them. Seniors, please speak, Lu Ming said with a smile. Recently, we've been attacking a ruin. This ruin definitely contains many treasures, but there are people from other universes competing for it. We'd like to ask for your help in attacking this ruin. A red-haired old man explained. Attacking the ruins? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This remnant isn't particularly large. It shouldn't be too dangerous. Thinking that Lu Ming was hesitating, the red-haired elder explained. All right, let's go together. Lu Ming said. It just so happened that he was lacking resources. These ruins were all left behind by the powerful forces of the Great Desolate Continent. There might be a large amount of resources inside. Even if no one invited him, Lu Ming planned to walk around. Seeing Lu Ming agree, the old men were overjoyed. Lu Ming's current cultivation was at mid-reciprocity. He could be described as the only one in the universe, and his battle prowess was extremely great. In a sense, Lu Ming could be called the #1 expert in the universe. With his help, they wouldn't have to fear the other universes, and their chances of success would be greatly increased. Immediately, they set off towards the ruins. A few days later, they arrived at a fragment of a continent. Now, the continent fragments of the Great Desolate Universe were all gathering together. Some of the closer ones had already gathered together to form a larger continent. However, the vast universe was too vast. The distance between many continent fragments was boundless. It would take a long time for them to gather together. This fragment of a continent would slowly drift in a certain direction, and one day, it would stick together with the other fragments of a continent. In the center of the continent fragment, there was a large mountain range that stretched as far as the eye could see. On the way, the old men had already explained the situation of the ruins to Lu Ming in detail. This ruin came from a huge immortal dynasty of the human race during the Great Desolate Continent. It was called the Qingyang Immortal Dynasty. Those with the name Immortal were all incredible. This immortal dynasty was definitely overseen by an immortal. In fact, The Qingyang Immortal dynasty was extremely powerful during the Great Desolate Continent. It could be ranked in the top 10 among all the orthodoxies of the human race. This was definitely incredible. For example, an orthodoxy like the Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven, which occupied a grotto heaven, couldn't even be ranked in the top 10 among the major forces of the human race. Although there were human kings in the Great Desolate Continent who ruled the world, they didn't unite the human race. However, the human king did not create a unified force of the human race. Instead, he divided it into many different forces and different orthodoxies. Human king was an honorific title. It was a title given to those who had made great contributions to the human race. They were respected by the majority of the human race. They weren't called human kings only if they founded an immortal dynasty of the human race. In fact, among the 3 human kings, only human king Xinyuan founded an orthodoxy. The other 2, human king Xingxi and ancient queen Xingxi, didn't found any orthodoxies. They were lone wolves. Of course, human kings were respected by the world. If there was a big matter, they would definitely gather heroes with a single command. At that time, the human race was divided into many orthodoxies of different sizes. Heroes ruled over their own areas. The Immortal dynasty and Immortal sects ruled over their own areas. They were extremely brilliant. For the Qingyang Immortal dynasty to be ranked in the top 10 of the orthodoxies of the human race, it was unknown how strong it was. Legend had it that there was a king overseeing it. Of course, this king didn't mean the king of human kings. The ruins left behind by the Qingyang Immortal dynasty were absolutely shocking. Of course, the ruins in front of them weren't the immortal capital of the Qingyang Immortal dynasty, but the residence of a general of the Qingyang Immortal dynasty. If it was really the immortal capital of the Qingyang Immortal dynasty, heroes would have gathered long ago. It wouldn't be up to the Qing Immortal realm to fight for it. However, if it was really the immortal capital of the Qingyang Immortal dynasty, the danger level would rise sharply. With their current strength, they wouldn't dare to attack it. The ruins in front of them were just the residence of a general of the Qingyang Immortal dynasty. The danger level was much lower. This was also the reason why the Qing Immortal realm dared to attack it now. The world has changed with the passage of time. The residence of the general of the Qingyang Immortal dynasty is buried in this mountain range. It's surrounded by restrictions. Every step is filled with killing intent. In addition, the Qingyang Immortal dynasty is good at refining stone puppets to fight for them. There are many stone puppets in this ruin. When we were excavating, we were attacked. Although countless years have passed, they still have a strong combat strength. They can't be underestimated. The few old men continued to introduce. Lu Ming nodded and memorized each and every one of them. Let's go over there. Our people are over there. The few old men led the way. Soon, Lu Ming saw a large group of people. There were more than 200 of them, and they were all Origin Realm experts. Such ruins were very dangerous. Those below the Origin Realm didn't dare to participate at all. They would die if they moved. Seeing Lu Ming's arrival, the people of the Qing Immortal Realm were overjoyed. They were much more confident. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent explosion in the depths of the mountain range. A dozen figures rushed out quickly. Chapter 51:22. More than a dozen figures charged out from the depths of the mountain range. They were all experts of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Watch out! There are stone puppets coming out. Work together to destroy them. Among the dozen or so people, one of them shouted, "Attack!" The 200 people outside circulated their origin energy and their source-grade weapons buzzed as they prepared for battle. Boom! Boom! In the next moment, Lu Ming felt the ground rumble. Some giants were charging over from behind the dozen people. At a closer look, they weren't giants at all. They were clearly stone golems. Each of them was over a dozen meters tall and wielded a stone weapon. Every step they took caused the ground to rumble as they pursued the dozen people. Lu Ming knew that these were stone puppets. There were a total of 13 of them. Very soon, the two sides drew close. Attack! An old man from the Ashen Azure Divine Realm yelled. Over 200 Origin Realm experts attacked at the same time, sending out dazzling beams of light that bombarded the 13 stone puppets. Boom, 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 boom. The 13 stone puppets were blown away and smashed into the ground. But very soon, the 13 stone puppets stood back up as if nothing had happened. At a closer look, only a few shallow marks could be seen on the stone puppets' bodies. What a tough body! An attack from a reciprocity expert has only left behind a shallow mark, Jianchen sighed. Lu Ming was rather surprised. Without a doubt, these stone puppets were left behind from the previous epoch. It was already rare for them to be able to survive without rotting, but they still had such a strong defense. It was truly shocking. However, with this obstruction, the dozen or so people managed to escape and regroup with the others. Attack again. Push, push. This time, everyone directly sent out their source-grade weapons. Several hundred source-grade weapons struck the 13 stone puppets, causing clanging sounds and sparks to fly. Stone fragments constantly flew out from the 13 stone puppets. Some of the source-grade weapons were even peak source-grade weapons. They were even more powerful and could directly smash large pieces of stone. In the end, the 13 stone puppets were destroyed under the combined attacks of over 200 reciprocity experts. They were reduced to pieces. There's a region of stone puppets inside. They've all been lured out and destroyed. We can explore that region now. One of the dozen people who had just run out said, "Let's go. We'll leave some people behind to guard the place. We'll go in and take a look." Immediately, about 100 people headed into the mountain range. Lu Ming followed. On the way, Lu Ming activated the Fey Monarch the Archrune. Instantly, his surroundings changed in his eyes. Above the mountain range, dense runes appeared, forming a powerful restriction. However, many of the restrictions outside had already been broken. Clearly, it was broken by someone from the Azure Divine Realm. However, in the depths of the mountain range, there were dense runes that formed even more complete restrictions. Soon they arrived at an area. The restrictions in this area were also destroyed, and they saw a large number of ancient buildings. Those buildings were all dilapidated and decayed. From the looks of it, they had experienced a great battle back then. They walked in and began to investigate. Then they saw some withered bones. With a light touch, they were weathered away and turned into powder. The creatures who died here weren't very strong. They must have been implicated when the universe collapsed. At the end of the Eldritch Era, there were wars everywhere in the universe. The experts were all conscripted to participate in the war. Those who remained were not very strong. Unfortunately, when the universe collapsed, those who were not strong enough could not survive at all. Several elders sighed. These old men had lived for a very long time. Their ancestors had lived since the era of the Great Desolate Continent. Their ancestors had once told them about their experiences back in the Great Desolate Continent. That was an era of despair. The flames of war raged. The strong had gone to war, while the weak stayed behind. Unfortunately, in the end, the Eldritch Era was destroyed and the heart of the universe exploded. Destructive power swept across the entire universe. Under such destructive power, the weak could not survive at all. How desperate that was! Only an extremely small number of living beings were able to survive. They investigated and found some broken source-level divine weapons. To be honest, the Firmament Divine Realm experts were not interested in these broken source-level divine weapons, but Lu Ming would not let them go. He quietly collected a lot of them. Qiuqiu's appetite was too big. These were food for Qiuqiu. Thinking of this, Lu Ming could not help but look at his wrist. After so many years, Qiuqiu still did not move. It turned into a bracelet and wore it on Lu Ming's wrist. Lu Ming was really worried. Back then, Qiuqiu swallowed the Human King's broken sword too forcefully. What was the Human King's broken sword? That was the sword of the Human King Xianyuan, a genuine immortal weapon. No matter how talented Qiuqiu was, it could not eat too much. Lu Ming was really worried that something would happen to Qiuqiu. But now Lu Ming had no better idea. He could only wait. He hoped that Qiuqiu could make it. Lu Ming had a feeling that if Qiuqiu could not make it, it would definitely be incredible. This is only the periphery of the ruins. If it were the center of the ruins, there would definitely be treasures left behind. After all, this is the residence of a general. Even if the general of the Qingyang Immortal dynasty is not an immortal, he is definitely an incredible existence who has crossed multiple immortal tribulations. Unfortunately, there are too many restrictions here. It's easier said than done to break them. Many people sighed. Perhaps, I have a way to break these restrictions. At this moment, Lu Ming spoke. You have a way? Many people looked at Lu Ming. Yes, I can see the weaknesses of these restrictions, but I still need the seniors to attack these weaknesses to break these restrictions. Lu Ming said. The people of the Azure Divine Realm were shocked that Lu Ming could see the weaknesses of the restrictions. What kind of talent was that? However, they did not ask too much. They knew very well that a genius like Lu Ming must have a lot of secrets. If he did not say it himself, they would not ask. Of course. The people of the Azure Divine Realm nodded. Then, Lu Ming left the place and headed towards the depths of the ruins. Lu Ming activated the demonic Monarch Emperor rune. His eyes lit up and the restrictions around him were revealed in his eyes. 30 meters to the right, 136 meters to the left, attack the void 858 meters in front. Lu Ming kept pointing out the weaknesses of the restrictions. The experts of the Azure Divine Realm attacked, sending out dazzling rays of light that bombarded the places pointed out by Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions occurred in these places. Then, the restrictions were broken one by one and the runes were dissipating. It's broken. The restrictions are broken. There was no lack of experts who were proficient in array formations. At this moment, they shouted in surprise. The others were also ecstatic. Especially the few old men who looked for Lu Ming previously. This time, it was the right choice to ask Lu Ming to come with them. Chapter 51-23. Lu Ming pointed out the weaknesses of the restrictions with his demonic monarch runes, and the experts of the Tsangqing Divine Realm attacked those weaknesses, easily breaking the restrictions. Layers of restrictions were broken as they continued to go deeper into the ruins. Large pieces of dilapidated buildings appeared in front of them. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, the ground rumbled as burly figures appeared and pounced on Lu Ming and the others. It was the stone puppets. There were at least 50 of them. Let's retreat and meet up with the others to deal with these stone puppets. An old man shouted. They didn't have enough manpower and would be at a great disadvantage against 50 to 60 stone puppets. They had to meet up with the people outside and kill the stone puppets together. They quickly retreated and spread the news. Soon, they retreated and the stone puppets chased after them. The hundreds of experts outside were ready and launched a fierce attack when they saw the stone puppets. Lu Ming and the others also stopped attacking. However, the 50 to 60 stone puppets had amazing combat power. They were able to close the distance and break the formation of the Tsangqing Divine Realm. Bam! A stone puppet held a stone knife and sent a Tsangqing Divine Realm expert flying with a strike, causing him to cough up blood. Set up the combined attack array. Someone shouted. Immediately, many people began to set up the combined attack array. However, there weren't many people left in the Tsangqing Divine Realm from the Primeval Age, so there weren't many combined attack arrays left. There were only 3 combined attack arrays and there were very few people. 2 of them were 3-man combined attack arrays and 1 was 5-man combined attack array. The combined attack array was powerful and immediately sent many stone puppets flying. The others gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and barely managed to stabilize the situation. Buzz. Lu Ming held the God of Combat spear and charged forward, striking a stone puppet with his spear. Lu Ming's current combat power was so powerful that he immediately sent the stone puppet flying. Dense cracks appeared on its body. Bam! The stone puppet smashed into the ground and shattered like porcelain. Buzz buzz buzz, Lu Ming kept waving the war god spear and attacking the stone puppets. Every time he struck, a stone puppet would be destroyed. The others sucked in a cold breath. Lu Ming's battle prowess was too terrifying. They knew how tough these stone puppets were. They needed to continuously attack with source-grade weapons before they could break through. But in Lu Ming's hands, they were so weak that one of them exploded with a single move. It was as if they were porcelain. In the end, All 50 to 60 stone puppets were defeated. More than half of the stone puppets were defeated by Lu Ming alone, shocking the experts of the Azure Divine Territory. Soon after, they repeated the same trick and entered the depths of the mountain range. Lu Ming saw through the weakness of the restrictions while the others attacked and broke through the restrictions. When there were stone puppets, they would lure them outside, and everyone would attack together to destroy them. Just like that, Lu Ming and the others broke through the restrictions in this direction. Large amounts of ancient ruins were exposed. Bang! Bang bang! Lu Ming and the others once again defeated a group of stone puppets. Good, the stone puppets in this area have basically been cleaned up. Next, we can explore this area. An old man said with a smile on his face. This time, little brother Lu Ming has contributed the most. I suggest that if there is any harvest later, half of it will be given to little brother Lu Ming. What do you all think? Another old man suggested. I have no objection. I think so too. Everyone nodded. Even if some of them were not satisfied, they could not bring it up. This time, it was true that Lu Ming had made the greatest contribution. Moreover, it was not just half of it. Lu Ming had seen through the weaknesses of the restrictions. Without Lu Ming, they did not know how long it would have taken them to break through. Needless to say, more than half of the stone puppets were defeated by Lu Ming. It could be said that Lu Ming's contribution alone was greater than the others combined. It was reasonable to share half of the harvest with Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not refuse. Now was not the time to be pretentious. He urgently needed a large amount of resources to improve his cultivation. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly raised his head and looked in a certain direction. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, rainbow lights flickered in that direction as a large number of figures came over. In the next moment, hundreds of figures appeared in the sky. It's the people of Emoshang Great Cosmos. The faces of the people of Ashen Azure Divine Territory changed drastically. The Ashen Azure Divine Territory was not the only one that had taken a fancy to this ruin. There were also two other forces that were from the Outerverse. The three forces had fought over this place previously and had engaged in a great battle. In the end, they had discussed and decided to divide this place equally. Each of them had chosen a direction and would rely on their own abilities. Whoever could break through the restrictions and obtain the treasures would have it. Emoshang Great Cosmos was one of the forces. This was a great cosmos from the underworld. It was not ranked high in the underworld, but it was a complete great cosmos after all. There were still many experts there. These hundreds of people were all early-stage origin realm existences. This is the territory of my Ashen Azure Divine Territory. What are you doing here? Asked an old man of Ashen Azure Divine Territory. This is clearly an ownerless land. When did it become your territory? Now, this direction belongs to us. You can leave. In Emoshang Great Cosmos, a purple-haired youth laughed. What? You want this place? The three of us have discussed this before. Each of us will choose a direction and rely on our own abilities. Are you trying to break your promise? The people of Ashen Azure Divine Territory were furious. What discussion? I wasn't around when you guys were discussing this. Now that I'm here, I don't agree with that agreement. Now, I want this area. Get lost. The purple-haired youth had his hands behind his back with a look of contempt. He had received news that the people of Ashen Azure Divine Territory seemed to have broken through the restrictions here. He was overjoyed when he heard that and immediately rushed over with his men. He was determined to get this area. Damn it. This guy must know that we have broken through the restrictions here and wants to take it away. Damn it. He wants to reap without sowing? No way. There are many more experts in Emoshang Great Cosmos than before. No wonder he's so arrogant. The people of Ashen Azure Divine Territory discussed. They were furious, but they were also fearful. In the past, the number of people in Emoshang Great Cosmos was far less than now. They could handle it. However, the number of people in Emoshang Great Cosmos had doubled now. Their strength was far above theirs. I'm advising you nicely. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Don't think that you can resist us. The human race is no longer the human race of the prehistoric continent. You have to recognize yourselves. You are just the descendants of some people struggling at death's door. The purple-haired youth sneered with a mocking expression. What did you say? Bastard! How dare you insult us? Many people were furious. Do you want to fight? The purple-haired youth sneered and waved his hand. Immediately, hundreds of experts of Mo Shang Great Cosmos unleashed their auras. The void shook as a terrifying aura pressed down on the people of Ashen Azure Divine Territory. Chapter 51-24. There were about 400 people in the Mo Shang Great Cosmos, which was double the number of people in the Ashen Green Sacred Realm. The combined aura of these 400 people was too frightening, making the people in the Ashen Green Sacred Realm grimace. Furthermore, the Mo Shang Great Cosmos was a complete great cosmos with a complete orthodoxy that had been passed down for countless years. The Ashen Green Sacred Realm couldn't compare to it at all. The Mo Shang Great Cosmos definitely didn't lack all sorts of powerful combined array formations. However, the Ashen Green Sacred Realm only had 3 combined array formations. If they really fought, they definitely wouldn't be a match. Scram! At that moment, a cold rebuke was heard. It sounded very abrupt. The people in the Ashen Green Sacred Realm couldn't help but turn to look at someone. Then their eyes lit up. The person who had spoken was naturally Lu Ming. Lu Ming was very unhappy. In his opinion, half of the treasures in this region belonged to him. Now, the people of the Mo Shang Great Cosmos actually wanted to snatch the treasures from him without risking anything. Furthermore, the other party's attitude made him extremely unhappy. Hence, he rebuked them directly. When they thought about Lu Ming's combat strength, the people in the Ashen Green Sacred Realm couldn't help but feel relieved. They had nearly forgotten about Lu Ming. That's right, with Lu Ming around, why would they be afraid of the Mo Shang Great Cosmos? The people of the Mo Shang Great Cosmos also looked at Lu Ming, especially the purple-haired youth. His eyes flashed coldly as he said, "Kid, who are you talking to?" "Nonsense, your comprehension ability is so poor. Are you a pig? I told you to scram." Lu Ming continued to reprimand them. Kid, do you know that you have a death wish? Now, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down, kowtow, admit your mistake, and break one of your arms. Then I can pretend I didn't hear what you just said. Scram. Before the purple-haired youth could finish speaking, Lu Ming also rebuked him. Based on his attitude, it seemed like he was reprimanding a wild dog. The purple-haired youth exploded. His anger was like a volcano as he went berserk all of a sudden. "Kid, you have a death wish. Kill him for me." The purple-haired youth roared. Shwa! A man stepped out from the Mo Shang Great Cosmos. His aura was tyrannical as he extended a hand and grabbed Lu Ming. There was no doubt that this burly man was an expert who had comprehended a Genesis technique. This giant hand was the embodiment of his Genesis technique, or he would not have been so careless as to directly attack. After all, Lu Ming's aura was at the origin realm. Swoosh! With a flick of Lu Ming's finger, a ray of spear gleam shot out and pierced through the man's palm, leaving a bloody hole. The middle-aged man swoosh swoosh. What? The Mo Shang Great Cosmos was swoosh swoosh masters swooshes swoosh. Swoosh. Swoosh swoosh sect. Swoosh. Swoosh great swoosh. Swoosh. Swoosh swoosh. 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 They realized that the young man before them was a monstrous genius. They li zhou 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 you zhou yuan words you swoosh. Swoosh level 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 level. S. This. T. The purple-haired youth roared. His figure flickered as a 5-man formation was set up. It turned into a giant black wolf that pounced at Lu Ming. The giant wolf was as large as a mountain. When its claws reached out, space collapsed. It was an extremely terrifying sight. Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense. He took out the battle god spear and swept it out, colliding with the giant wolf's claws. With a bang, the giant wolf's claws exploded, but the spear didn't stop there. It continued to smash the giant wolf into pieces. The 5 people in the formation screamed as they were sent flying like cannonballs. They smashed into the ground and coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were pale and their auras withered. They had suffered heavy injuries. And Lu Ming had shown them mercy. Otherwise, the 5 of them wouldn't have survived. However, the Mo Shang Great Cosmos people were dumbfounded. They were all at the early origin stage, but he could destroy a 5-man formation in one move. What kind of battle prowess was that? No, it wasn't early origin stage, but mid-origin stage. Just now, Lu Ming's aura had flashed by. He was clearly at the mid-origin stage. However, people at the mid-origin stage couldn't break the seal and come out. How could Lu Ming wander around? They immediately thought of who Lu Ming was. Some time ago, the 8 races of the Forbidden Land had surrounded and killed Lu Ming. In the end, Lu Ming had broken through at the critical moment and reached the mid-origin stage. He had killed more than 100 experts from the 8 races of the Forbidden Land. This matter had already spread throughout the universe. Right now, there was only one person in the primitive universe who had reached the mid-origin stage. That was Lu Ming. Thinking of this, their faces turned pale. This was a ruthless person. He had suppressed everyone on the heaven trampling platform, defeated sacred Wushuang, and occupied the highest platform. When he had broken through to the origin stage, he had reached the mid-origin stage. The 8 races of the Forbidden Land had sent out many experts, but they had suffered heavy casualties. This fiend was actually here. The purple-haired young man only felt his legs and stomach tremble, and his lips trembled. Although he could be considered a genius, the difference between him and Lu Ming was huge. He had berated Lu Ming like that, so he was really afraid that Lu Ming would stab him to death. He squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, "It was a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding. Which bastard tricked me to come here? I won't forgive him. Now, goodbye." The purple-haired young man clasped his fist and turned around to leave. "You think you can come and go as you please? Do you think I'm easy to talk to?" Lu Ming's indifferent voice rang out. The purple-haired young man's body stiffened. He turned around and looked at Lu Ming again. He said, "Lu Ming, what do you want?" "It's simple. I was really frightened by such a large group of people rushing over. Even my soul cracked and my origin foundation became unstable," Lu Ming said. "Bullshit. What a load of bullshit." The purple-haired young man roared in his mind. "You're frightened? You're just lying through your teeth. You're clearly pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger if you're frightened with your battle prowess. We're the ones who should be frightened." Of course, he only thought that. He did not dare to say it out loud. What kind of compensation do you want?" The purple-haired young man's face was ugly, as if he had eaten a dead rat. This time, he had brought people to occupy this place and reap the benefits, but now, he was actually being asked for compensation. "It's simple. I don't want much. Just 100,000 immortal crystals and 300 source-level divine herbs," Lu Ming said. The purple-haired young man almost jumped up as if he had been slashed. He roared, "What? 100,000 immortal crystals and 300 source-level divine herbs? Why don't you just rob me?" "I'm robbing you," Lu Ming replied indifferently, which almost made the purple-haired young man spit blood. "No, we don't have that many immortal crystals and source-level divine herbs," the purple-haired young man roared. "You have over 400 reciprocity experts here. Do you think I'll believe that you don't have 100,000 immortal crystals and source-level divine herbs?" Lu Ming said with an unfriendly gaze. Chapter 51:25. The purple-haired youth roared inside. "Even if we have so many immortal crystals and source-grade divine herbs, we can't give them all to you." "No, I don't have any. You know that cultivating in the origin realm consumes a lot of resources. We don't have enough immortal crystals and source-grade divine herbs. How can we have so many immortal crystals and source-grade divine herbs?" The purple-haired youth shook his head. "It's fine if you don't compensate me for my losses. Then let's fight. However, I just broke through not long ago, so I can't control my strength well. Also, this spear is very tough. Don't blame me if I accidentally kill someone." Lu Ming's face turned cold. The war god's spear in his hand buzzed as if it would fly out and stab someone at any time. The people of Moshang Great Cosmos couldn't help but retreat in fear. They felt chills all over. Sullen, incomparably sullen. The purple-haired youth roared inside. If it weren't for the fact that it was the origin tribulation and those above mid-origin realm couldn't enter, he really wanted to call in the experts of his sect to suppress Lu Ming. Unfortunately, no one could stop Lu Ming in the current situation. You won't give? Then attack. Lu Ming snorted coldly. The war god's spear expanded, turning into a towering spear that seemed to pierce the sky. At this moment, Lu Ming didn't hold back at all. The aura of a mid-origin realm fully erupted. The pressure of a high-grade source root made the people of Mozhang Great Cosmos pale. Facing Lu Ming, they felt like they were facing a terrifying beast. They were like little chicks that couldn't resist at all. This person is too terrifying. Will he be able to enter the origin ranking in the future? This thought flashed through many people's minds. We'll give. In the end, the purple-haired youth compromised. This was because from the various signs, Lu Ming was definitely a ruthless person. He didn't fear sacred Wushuang. He even dared to kill the 8 races of the Forbidden Lands. This kind of person wouldn't fear Mozhang Great Cosmos at all. Moreover, the Yin world and the Yang world were enemies. The 400 people of Mozhang Great Cosmos pooled their resources and finally gathered 100,000 immortal crystals and 300 source-grade divine herbs. They handed them over to Lu Ming and left as if they were fleeing. Just as the purple-haired young man had said, immortal crystals and origin-level pills were consumables. Origin realm cultivators did not have a lot of them. If they did, they would refine them. To be able to gather so many people from over 400 people was already pretty good. The people of Tsangqing Divine Realm were dumbfounded. That works too. That was 100,000 immortal crystals, which was equivalent to 300 stalks of soul-grade divine herbs. It was definitely a huge sum of money, and he had gotten it just like that. What reciprocity cultivators lacked the most were resources that contained origin imprints. Ordinary origins could only refine 20% of the origin mark. 80% would be wasted, so the demand for these resources was even greater. But even if they racked their brains to get resources, it was still not enough. Although the universe was now recovering, and there were many more resources available, the competition was still fierce. Countless powerhouses from the outerverse were pouring in, and the competition was too fierce. It was even more difficult to obtain resources than before. As for Lu Ming, he was able to obtain so many resources so easily. Many people were envious to death. However, they were only envious. They would never dare to learn from Lu Ming. Firstly, they did not have Lu Ming's courage, and secondly, they did not have Lu Ming's strength. Lu Ming put away the immortal crystals and origin-level pills with a satisfied smile. These resources should be enough for him to break through to late-stage reciprocity. Of course, the ruins here had not been explored yet. If there were treasures inside, they could not miss it. Senior, the people from Mozhang Great Cosmos have left. Let's continue exploring the ruins. Lu Ming said. The people of Tsangqing Divine Realm seemed to have woken up from a dream, and they walked into the ruins with Lu Ming. There was a large area of dilapidated buildings in the ruins. It could be seen that there had been a vast mansion in the past, but it was now completely ruined. Occasionally, some remains could be seen in the dilapidated buildings. There's an intact storage pouch. Someone cried out in pleasant surprise. Sure enough, someone found a storage pouch in one of the remains. This storage pouch was definitely not simple. It was dark gold in color and contained an immortal substance. Otherwise, it would not have been able to be preserved from the previous epoch until now. Ordinary storage pouches, storage rings, storage bracelets, and so on would decay and collapse after a long time. The items inside would fall into the chaotic dark void, never to see the light of day again. However, if a storage pouch was made of an immortal substance, it could be preserved for a long time. It could even be preserved from the previous epoch until now. In fact, most origin-level divine weapons also contained immortal substances. Therefore, they could be preserved for a long time without decaying. Open it and take a look. Someone urged. That person opened it and found a lot of immortal crystals, divine pills, and so on. Of course, it was impossible for there to be any divine pills. Even if a divine pill was placed in a storage pouch, its essence would be lost. It was impossible for it to be preserved until now. Continue searching. There are probably other storage pouches that have been preserved. An old man said. Everyone spread out to search. As expected, they did find a lot of things. Both damaged and intact source-grade divine weapons were found, and all kinds of refining materials were piled up like mountains. What a strong medicinal fragrance! When they went deep into the ruins, everyone smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. Then, they found a medicinal field in the depths of the mansion. This should be the place where the general of the Qingyang Celestial Dynasty planted the divine pills. This medicinal field occupied a large area. At a glance, there were lush divine pills everywhere. The godly herbs emitted a mystical glow, as if the whole place had turned into an immortal realm. There are so many divine pills. Most of them are origin-level divine pills. This is amazing! Someone exclaimed. Lu Ming's breathing became a little heavy. The main thing was that there were too many origin-level divine pills. With a rough scan with his spirit sense, there were about 1,000 of them. These were origin-level divine pills. It was amazing that there were more than 1,000 of them. In the past, they obtained origin-level divine pills one by one. It was already amazing to have a few origin-level divine pills together, but there were more than 1,000 of them here. The quality of the soil in this medicinal field is amazing. Even when the universe is dead, it can still slowly absorb the energy of the universe. That's why there are so many origin-level divine pills here. An old man came to a conclusion after a careful inspection. The reason why there were so many origin-level divine pills here was completely related to the quality of the soil. This was a special kind of soil that was extremely suitable for planting divine pills. He even guessed that this soil could even be used to plant subimmortal herbs. Then we can't let go of this soil. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He planned to dig up some soil and put it into the ancient desolate ring to plant divine pills. Immediately, everyone dug up all the origin-level divine pills here, including the roots. Of course, they didn't let go of the soil here. In the end, there were more than 1,100 origin-level divine pills. Lu Ming's face was full of smiles because according to the agreement, Lu Ming would get half of it. This time, they had made a lot of money. Chapter 51:26. After that, they explored the ruins and plundered everything that needed to be plundered. Unfortunately, they didn't encounter any higher-grade treasures. For example, top-grade source-grade divine herbs, quasi-immortal herbs, or quasi-immortal weapons. They didn't encounter any treasures of that level. However, there were still a lot of other treasures, especially more than 1,000 stalks of source-grade divine herbs. Their value was astonishing. According to the agreement, Lu Ming took half of it. There were more than 500 stalks of source-grade divine herbs, tens of thousands of immortal crystals, and many damaged source-grade divine weapons. This time, it could be said that they returned with a fruitful harvest. Seniors, I will return to the Changqing immortal realm to cultivate. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bid farewell. Lu Ming, if there are any suitable ruins next time, you have to help again. An old man said. The others also looked at Lu Ming with hope. Lu Ming's combat strength was too important. Moreover, Lu Ming could see through the weaknesses of some restrictions. With his help, they could look for Lu Ming for many ruins that they couldn't explore. Even if they shared half of Lu Ming's harvest, they would still make a huge profit. Just like here, if it weren't for Lu Ming, they wouldn't have been able to break through the restrictions and obtain the treasures inside so easily. Not to mention breaking through, even if the people from the Mo Shang Great Cosmos came, they would only be able to leave dejectedly. They wouldn't even have a chance. Of course, if there are any suitable ruins, feel free to look for me. Lu Ming said. His words were sincere. This time, they had only come out to explore a single ruin, but they had already gained so much. This was only the residence of a general of the Qingyang Immortal Dynasty. Who knew how many treasures there were in the truly important ruins? For example, if the immortal capital of the Qingyang Immortal Dynasty hadn't been destroyed and was preserved, the treasures inside would definitely be amazing. Unfortunately, many of the ruins were occupied by people from the outerverse. Moreover, those important ruins were very dangerous. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he couldn't enter at all. He would die if he moved. Therefore, Lu Ming was more concerned about finding suitable ruins than these people. Lu Ming entered seclusion after returning to the Ashen Divine Realm. He refined the Immortal Crystals and Origin level pills and began to break through, advancing towards late reciprocity. His cultivation base was constantly deepening and consolidating. In the blink of an eye, a few years had passed. However, Lu Ming's cultivation remained at mid-reciprocity. He had not broken through to late reciprocity. It seems that I've reached a bottleneck. Sure enough, I can't rely on resources to keep improving. Lu Ming muttered. The higher one's cultivation was, the more difficult it was to increase it. After reaching reciprocity, it was just too difficult to increase one's cultivation level. In fact, many origins would be trapped at a certain level, unable to break through for a long time. Not only did reciprocity require resources, but it also required comprehension. Once one's comprehension reached a certain level, they would naturally be able to break through. The reason why Lu Ming was able to break through and reach the mid-stage of origin was entirely because of the gift from the Cosmic Sea. Now he was stuck. Read books to receive cash. Follow VX Public Zhonghao. Read books to receive cash. Lu Ming understood that this was normal. If one could continue to improve without limit by relying on resources, then the descendants of the top experts would not need to cultivate. They could just rely on resources to become top experts. The descendants of the top experts, such as the descendants or disciples of immortals, would definitely not lack resources. But in reality, it was not that easy. The descendants of the top experts also needed to train, fight, and comprehend. Different people made different choices. Some people would fight and kill others, comprehend in the battle, and train in life and death. Some people would choose to enter seclusion for a long time, slowly accumulating over time. There were also people who would travel the world, experience the various states of life, train their minds, and find an opportunity to break through. Different people made different choices. Lu Ming came out of seclusion and stopped cultivating. He knew that it was impossible to break through by refining immortal crystals or origin-level pills when he encountered a bottleneck. If he cultivated in seclusion, even with his talent, it would take a long time. What he lacked the most now was time. Time did not wait for him. Lu Ming planned to go out and train himself. At the same time, he would explore some ruins and accumulate more resources. Once he broke through to the late stage of reciprocity, he would need a lot of resources. Except for the late stage of reciprocity, the resources needed to reach the peak of the late stage of reciprocity would be even more astonishing than before. After Lu Ming came out of seclusion, he contacted a few elders in the Azure Divine Realm. The elders were overjoyed and invited Lu Ming to explore the ruins together. In the following time, Lu Ming went in and out of various ruins. He explored 5 or 6 ruins one after another. Of course, they were not particularly dangerous ruins. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, there was almost no competition. Even if there were people from the Outerverse competing, they would not be a match for Lu Ming. The 8 clans of the Forbidden Area did not find trouble with Lu Ming again, as if they were afraid of him. However, Lu Ming knew that the 8 clans of the Forbidden Area were not really afraid of Lu Ming. They were just hibernating and waiting. Once the Origin Tribulation was over and more powerhouses awakened, they would definitely not let Lu Ming go. After exploring so many ruins, Lu Yin's harvest was also huge. Lu Ming had accumulated a large number of immortal crystals and source-grade divine herbs. Lu Ming even obtained 3 top-grade source-grade divine herbs. In total, he had 15 top-grade source-grade divine herbs. In addition, he had also obtained a pseudo-immortal armament. Unfortunately, it was damaged and had been destroyed in the previous era. However, this was a pseudo-immortal armament. Even if it was damaged, its value was still astonishing. It was not something a source-grade divine weapon could compare to. Lu Ming solemnly put it away. Just like that, another 30 years passed. At this time, there were still about 250 years until the end of the Origin Tribulation. It could be felt that the power of the Origin Tribulation was getting weaker and weaker. He believed that before long, existences above the Middle Origin realm would be able to awaken and move freely. However, Lu Ming had not broken through yet. His cultivation was still stuck at the limit of the Middle Origin realm. However, at this time, Lu Ming received a message from Mullins. Seeing this message, Lu Ming was stunned. Dandan was here. It was true. The message from Mullins was very clear. Dandan had come and was in the Tsangqing divine realm. Wasn't Dandan in the Eastern universe? Why did he suddenly come to the Western universe? How did he come here? Lu Ming hurriedly returned to the Tsangqing divine realm and saw Dandan, who was bragging with Mullins and Huang Ling. Dandan, how did you come here? Lu Ming asked directly as soon as he saw Dandan. Of course I came here through the ancient teleportation formation. Dandan said. Wasn't the ancient teleportation formation blown up? Lu Ming was puzzled. Yes, it was destroyed. But who is the person in front of you? I'm a rare genius in formations. After many years of research, I managed to fix the teleportation platform. So, I followed the ancient teleportation path here to see how you are doing. I didn't expect that. I was almost scared to death as soon as I came. Why are there so many experts here? I was almost cooked alive. It took me a lot of effort to find out about you and find my way here, Dandan said. Chapter 51:27. Dandan rambled, and there was indeed a look of fear in his eyes. He was really frightened, because the Western universe was too lively. Wherever he went, there were Origin Realm experts, which was completely different from the Eastern universe. Although early Origin Realm experts could move freely now, only the three races of the Forbidden Area and the Heavenly Human race had some Origin Realm experts in the Eastern universe. The other races didn't have many Origin Realm experts. But the Western universe was full of Origin Realm experts. He was almost scared to death, thinking that he had traveled through time and arrived at the primeval continent of the last era. You actually repaired the ancient teleportation formation. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised. Didn't that mean he could go back at any time? Without the ancient teleportation formation, he could only go back through the void zone, which was not so easy and would take a long time. The three races of the Forbidden Area came from the void zone. Don't you know who I am? How can a mere teleportation formation stump me? It'll just take a little more time. Dandan said proudly, and his nostrils were almost raised to the sky. The Heaven Destroyer Station is like this. The three races of the Forbidden Area didn't attack it, right? Lu Ming continued to ask. This was what he cared about the most. After all, his family and friends were all in the Heaven Destroyer Station. It's fine. Although many early Origin Realm experts of the three races of the Forbidden Area and the Heavenly Human race have awakened in recent years and can move freely, they haven't attacked the Heaven Destroyer. After all, we also have early Origin Realm experts who have awakened. With the Origin Realm formation, we can protect ourselves. It won't be so easy for them to break through. Moreover, they are also afraid of the stronger experts of the Heaven Destroyer. Once they awaken, they will have to face the consequences. Dandan explained. Only then did Lu Ming feel relieved. Come to think of it, Dandan had set up a complete source-level array many years ago, and it was activated by the existence of the Origin Realm. The power of the source-level array would be very shocking. Lu Ming had already experienced this before. At the same time, the Heaven Destroyer contained mid, late, and peak reciprocity existences. If they were forced to awaken, their destructive power would be astonishing. Presumably, the three clans of the Forbidden Land were also apprehensive. However, this situation wouldn't last for long. Once the Origin Tribulation was over, Heaven Destroyer would definitely be in danger. Without a doubt, the three races of the Forbidden Grounds definitely possessed existences beyond reciprocity, experts who had undergone the Immortal Tribulation. Needless to say, there were such beings in the Heavenly Human race. When the time came, the Heaven Destroyer would definitely not be able to resist. As for the Heaven Destroyer, at its peak, it only had 49 origins. Now it had less than that. As for whether there were existences above the Origin Realm, Lu Ming was not very sure. However, there was no need to think too much about it. Even if there were, there wouldn't be many of them. Lu Ming guessed that Tang Feng and Fei Huang were most likely existences that surpass Source. However, there were too few of them. They definitely wouldn't be able to stop the 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands. What worried Lu Ming the most was that there were most likely true immortals in the Forbidden Grounds. Otherwise, during the Primeval Age, the orthodoxies wouldn't have been afraid, and it wouldn't have become a forbidden ground. Once the immortals came out, no one could stop them, and no one could stop them. Therefore, Lu Ming planned to transfer his family and friends to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, and even the entire Heaven Destroyer to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Read books and receive cash. Follow VX Everyone read books and receive cash. There were many humans in the Heaven Destroyer, and even other races were native creatures of the Primeval Age. He believed that the Ashen Azure Divine Realm would not refuse. The Ashen Azure Divine Realm had powerful formations and seals, so it should be able to protect itself. Moreover, Lu Ming speculated that there were also immortals in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. It should be safe in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. In the past, it was very difficult to do this. Even if Lu Ming used the Chaos Ring, it was not easy to do. Because the space inside the Chaos Ring was limited, and the Heaven Destroyer was very large, there were too many creatures. Even if he used the Chaos Ring to transport them, it was not possible to transport them all at once. It had to be done several times. And if they passed through the Void Zone, it would take a long time to go back and forth. And this was after he had broken through to the Origin Realm. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult. Lu Ming told them his idea, and Mulins, Huang Ling, and Dandan naturally nodded in agreement. Immediately, the 4 of them set off. Lu Ming originally wanted to let Mulins and Huang Ling stay in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm to cultivate, but the 2 of them had been away for too long, and their family and friends were also in the Eastern Universe. How could they stay there? They insisted on returning with Lu Ming. Soon, the 4 of them arrived at the entrance of the ancient transmission path. This entrance was also the last stop Lu Ming had made when he came to the Western Universe. Mulins and Huang Ling had also been teleported here to the Western Universe. Coming back again, the 2 of them had a lot of thoughts. Moreover, the 2 of them felt that this was not the end of the ancient transmission path. It might just be a point in the middle. However, the path that continued down was cut off for some reason. This conjecture happened to be the same as Lu Ming's. Lu Ming had always felt that this was not the end of the ancient transmission path. As for where the end led to, he could only slowly explore it in the future. The 4 of them stepped on the transmission path and teleported to the Eastern Universe. After a while, they were teleported to a strange place. There was a small stone house here. I don't know where the senior who created the ancient transmission path is. Back then he left behind an opportunity here. If not for that, the 2 of us would not have achieved what we have today. Mulin sighed. Back then she and Huang Ling had obtained a great opportunity here. They had been transformed by the creation Jade Liquid, and their talent and potential had been greatly improved. Of course, they had also obtained a few other treasures. However, those treasures were too profound, and they did not know how to use them. They had shown Lu Ming before, but Lu Ming could not figure it out. They stopped here for a while and then continued to set off. After teleporting again and again, they finally returned to the Eastern Universe. Then, they went to the Heaven Destroyer's base. It did not take long for them to return to the Heaven Destroyer's base. Lu Ming is back. Before Lu Ming arrived at the Heaven Destroyer's base, he was discovered by the Heaven Destroyer's people. The news immediately spread. From afar, Lu Ming saw that the Heaven Destroyer's base was enveloped in a huge formation. There was no doubt that it was a complete source-level formation. Moreover, Lu Ming extended his spiritual consciousness and could clearly feel that there was an origin guarding some important positions of this source-level formation. Once a great enemy approached, these origins would activate the formation and burst out with powerful power. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as Lu Ming arrived, a large number of figures flew out of the Heaven Destroyer's base. Lu Ming! Young master! Lu Ming smiled. He saw Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Bubbles, and the others. Of course, there were also a few Origin Realm existences. Thinking about it, it had been hundreds of years since Lu Ming left the Western Universe. Everyone was naturally very concerned and worried. Now that they met, they were naturally very happy. Chapter 51:28. However, when Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others discovered Mulins and Huang Ling, they were naturally overjoyed. Mulins and Huang Ling had been gone for far too long without any news. Everyone was afraid that something had happened to the two of them. They never thought that Lu Ming would really be able to find the two of them this time. Lu Ming, your cultivation. Suddenly, someone cried out in disbelief. The person who spoke was Ku Wangyuan. Ku Wangyuan was an early reciprocity expert of Heaven Destroyer. In addition, the reciprocity experts of Heaven Destroyer also looked at Lu Ming in shock. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others were only peak divine masters, so they could not see Lu Ming's exact cultivation. However, Ku Wangyuan and the others could vaguely sense it. Lu Ming stood there casually, but he gave them a feeling that he was as heavy as a mountain and unfathomable. Divine masters would not give them such a feeling. Only reciprocity experts could give them such a feeling, and it was very likely that their cultivation was even higher than theirs. However, how was this possible? Several hundred years ago, Lu Ming was only a divine master. In just a few hundred years, Lu Ming had broken through to reciprocity? This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that they were currently under the origin tribulation. Under the origin tribulation, were divine masters not supposed to break through to reciprocity? How could Lu Ming reach reciprocity? No, it's definitely not reciprocity. I must be mistaken. Perhaps Lu Ming has some kind of treasure on him that makes me feel like this, Ku Wangyuan thought to himself. The other reciprocity experts were similar. Seniors, Lu Ming managed to break through to the origin realm not long ago. Lu Ming replied with a smile. What? The reciprocity experts almost bit their tongues. They stared blankly at Lu Ming. They were all stunned. What did Lu Ming say? He really broke through to reciprocity? How was this possible? Although King Ku, Venerate Yuan, and the others were ancient and had lived for a long time, they knew very little about the matters of the previous era. They knew even less about the outside of the universe. Therefore, he had no idea that he could make a breakthrough under the Great Tribulation of Source. He only thought that it was impossible to make a breakthrough under the Great Tribulation of Source. Therefore, now that Lu Ming had shattered their understanding, one could imagine how shocked they were. Lu Ming, have you broken through to origin? Xian Yanqing and the others were also very shocked. Of course, this was followed by great joy. Young master is always so powerful. Autumn Moon's eyes were twinkling with little stars. I was lucky to break through. Come, let's go in and talk. Lu Ming said. Everyone entered the Heaven Destroyer's base. Swish. Swish. When they entered the base of the Heaven Destroyer, space ripped open and people constantly tore through space. Needless to say, they were all reciprocity experts. There were over a dozen of them in total. They were all early-stage reciprocity experts of the Heaven Destroyer. Heaven Destroyer had a total of more than 40 reciprocity experts, but half of them were early-stage reciprocity experts. When these people appeared, they constantly scanned Lu Ming with their spiritual consciousness. They were all shocked and in disbelief. It's really reciprocity. It's unbelievable. He can actually make a breakthrough under the Great Tribulation of Source. He's really a genius. These reciprocity experts were all sighing. Greetings, seniors. Lu Ming clasped his fist. You're too polite. We're at the same level now. There's no need to call us seniors. That's right. Those reciprocity experts. Among cultivators, everything was based on cultivation. Age was not important. This was because reciprocity experts had the same lifespan as the universe. If the universe was immortal, they would be immortal. To them, time was no longer a concept. Everything depended on cultivation. If their cultivation was similar, they would be peers. Lu Ming, what have you experienced in the Western universe over the years? Xian Yanqing asked. She knew that for Lu Ming to be able to break through to reciprocity, it was definitely not that simple. He must have experienced a lot. Immediately, Lu Ming briefly recounted his experiences over the years. Whether it was Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others, or those reciprocity experts, they were all dumbfounded. This was because many things that Lu Ming said had broken their understanding. There are actually remnants of the human race from the previous era. So, there really is an outerverse. Now, the universe channel has actually opened. Many reciprocity experts could not suppress their emotions and let out low cries. At the same time, their expressions were very heavy. It was an eventful time. Although the people of the outerverse were still in the Western universe and had not entered the Eastern universe, it was only a matter of time. There were also many ruins in the Eastern universe. The people of the outerverse would definitely not let them go. At that time, the Eastern universe would definitely be in chaos. I came back this time to transfer the people of the Heaven Destroyer to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Everyone, what do you think? Lu Ming looked at the reciprocity experts. I agree. I agree too. There was almost no discussion. The reciprocity experts nodded one after another. There was indeed nothing to consider. Now that the Great Era had arrived, the Heaven Destroyer was like a lonely boat floating on the ocean, which could be swallowed by the waves at any time. The Ashen Azure Divine Realm was the human race of the previous era. It had a deep foundation and powerful experts overseeing it. It was many times safer than the Heaven Destroyer station. How could they not agree? Then, everyone, let's start mobilizing and making preparations. Lu Ming said. The reciprocity experts nodded and left one after another to mobilize the people of the Heaven Destroyer. The Heaven Destroyer station was formed by huge fragments of the continent, where a large number of living beings lived. It would not be easy to transfer them. It would take some time. Next, Lu Ming went to meet his parents, Lu Shenhuang and the others. Soon, several months passed. The Heaven Destroyer's preparations had been completed. A large number of living beings entered the Chaos Ring. Of course, Lu Ming's family and friends had already entered the Chaos Ring. As expected, I can't take them all in one go. Lu Ming whispered. According to the scale, it would take at least 3 trips to take them all away. When the Chaos Ring was almost filled, Lu Ming set off along the ancient transmission path and returned to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Mulins and Huang Ling followed Lu Ming back to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. As the two of them were more familiar with the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, they needed their help in the future planning. After returning to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, Lu Ming contacted a few acquaintances. Fortunately, there were people in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Not long after, 2 old men came together. They were 2 reciprocity experts. Now, Lu Ming was very familiar with the reciprocity experts of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Originally, some of them had a problem with Lu Ming, but now their impression of Lu Ming had changed greatly. Little brother Lu Ming, why are you looking for us? An old man asked. It's like this, Lu Ming told them the purpose of his visit. In order to transfer so many living beings of the Heaven Destroyer, the higher-ups of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm had to arrange it. These old men were now the higher-ups of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm.